Hey family, welcome to FiresideMeeple. I'm Raymond, and this is the latest addition to my collection, which is currently on offer in the UK for a ridiculous slip of a price at £13. I managed to grab a copy of this. My camera is all over the shop. Let me just straighten that up there. There we go. Okay, so Twilight Inscription, and it was quite funny. I can remember listening to people talking about this one. Seems almost a kind of an April Fool concept around this Twilight Inscription. The idea of Twilight Imperium coming out as a roll and write. But you know what? This actually, for me at least, it works. It works really well. It does give you that kind of sense of almost kind of Civ building across these four boards. So we'll go ahead and we'll go and have a look. So this isn't completely an unboxing because I have played this a couple of times now. So I've got a good sense of how it works. We'll open it up and have a poke through and yeah, see what that entails. Okay, so we have the full-blown rulebook. I say full-blown, I mean actually it's 20 pages long. That includes the reference clarifications on the back. It's not particularly arduous to read through. It really is quite light, so it goes through the components as you would expect. Bit of an overview of what it is that you're doing, bit of fluff on the story there. So the story for us is the Lazax Empire has fallen after a bloody rebellion that saw the galaxy aflame with war and the extermination of the once proud Lazax. The many factions of the galaxy retreated to their homeworld, seeking a period of stability. They learned to live again as sovereign peoples. Now as they emerge once more into the wider galaxy, each faction seeks opportunities to expand their great civilizations. But isolation breeds distrust. The dethroning of the Lazax revealed the unbound ambitions of the galaxy's major powers. The memories of their viciousness do not fade easily. Each faction sees the risk that someone else may claim the mantle of the Emperor, asserting their dominion over the galaxy. That possibility is unacceptable. So that is what you are doing. You are fighting effectively a race to the Lazax Empire. That will gain you a whole bunch of victory points, and you'll be doing that across these four boards. We'll dig into those boards in a moment. You do get a bunch of chalk markers. So these are dry erase markers, but they're chalk, so they're designed to stand out in a bright colour on a dark background. They work really well. The chosen colour for these is bright orange, which is great, stands out really well, but it does give you like you've been eating Cheetos all evening effect at the end. So yeah, it does leave a bit of a mess. I did see Tom Vassell making a comment replacing those with white chalk markers just to avoid that Cheetos look. But yeah, that's fine. So we get the setup of the four boards. You get a bunch of cards for your objectives. There is a Mecatol Rex board, so that works for multiplayer, and then when you flip that over, that works as a solo play, and then also effectively as a third player when you're playing a two-player game. So this really is designed optimally for 3 or more players. Think of it like, oh, what was the game now? What was the game? Oh, I can't remember the name of the game. Seven Wonders. That's the name of the game. Seven Wonders. Think of it like Seven Wonders, where you'll set up your tableau and you're building that up. And as you build up your tableau, part of it is military might, and you'll be fighting off against your player to your left and your player to your right. That is effectively how this middle card here works. When you flip it over, it gives you some options to that. Otherwise, in multiplayer, 3 or more players, that is who you're actually fighting against, is the players to your left and right. Maybe unlocking particular rewards in the warfare card, but like I say, I'll go into that in a bit more detail. You get a bunch of dice. Really like the dice for this game, massive chunky dice. So yeah, it runs through the rules. So you've got the fundamental concepts, the playing of the game, and then it goes through each of the particular boards and how they work. So industry, warfare, etc. how the production works, the council events, so there's a voting element, similar as I understand to Twilight Imperium, but massively stripped down, so it isn't as impactful, the voting on here, compared to the original game. Again, one of the complaints Tom Vassell had, he was certainly looking forward to an expansion that maybe made those votes a bit more impactful. And then we've got our objectives, and you mark everything up and then determine who the winner is. And then, as I say, page 18, then you've got just some variations with regards to the solo and two-player rules. So you do have to understand the main concept of the game, and then these are kind of the add-on element. The main add-on, really, like I say, is just this additional flip side of that board. So yeah, very easy to follow, very good, well laid out rules, and it does also come with this play as you learn. So I did use this myself. It took me probably about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour to go through the play as you learn, and it kind of introduces the concepts of each of the individual boards and how you sort of create this deck of events and strategic plays that you'll be going through as you play through the game. And then it introduces you to each of the boards. So you go through navigation, expansion, industry, and then finally warfare. And then it refers you back to the main rules, where you then carry on for the rest of that game. That works really well, yeah. So that was a really nice introduction, and really kind of gives you the core concept of sort of gaining these resources that you're using to gain assets that you're then using to unlock other sort of assets and resources to ultimately build up your civilization. So this is what comes in the box. You can see I've got one of the pens out already. You get a whole bunch of icons. So they say it plays up to 8 players. Again, the main part of this game is simultaneous play. So basically you're going to turn over a card that will have a particular resource on it. You're going to roll some dice. Those will then tell you what other resources you can spend. Then you will spend those resources to ascertain assets, and everyone is effectively doing that all at the same time around the table. Analysis paralysis obviously will kick in here, so do need to be aware and mindful of that, and maybe the players that you're going to be playing with. That will potentially slow down play. Does it give us an idea of game length? So here we go. So 90 to 120 minutes. Yeah, I think that's fair. So yeah, an hour and a half, 2 hours. I think even solo play, I think you're looking at that kind of an innings, really. So you get a bunch of pens, as I say, bright orange, as you can see there. But they work really well. They show up really nicely. You get a whole bunch of cards to go into those in a moment, and you get these beautifully chunky dice. I really like these. Let's see if they'll show up on the green screen. Decides not to work, of course. Oh, there we go. There we go. Is it working? No. Okay, not working on that camera. That's fine. So that's fine. We'll turn the green screen off. The green, to be fair, obviously wouldn't show up on the green screen anyway, but you can see just how chunky those dice are. They are a beauty to use in this game. They really are nice. They roll really well. Beautifully done. Really like those massive chunky resource, and the color ones, they really do pop. As you can see there, they really do have a kind of a glow to them, as you would expect with this kind of space theme. So they did a great job on those dice. And then you get the black dice. The black dice are really nice, as you can see, really clear to see what those icons are that you are rolling. And each of these icons represent different resource, and you don't really need to trouble yourself what those particular resources are. You just know that these icons equal those resources, and that is effectively then what you are crossing off when you come to your big stack of boards that you're going to be playing with in the game. So this is the center board that everyone is effectively fighting over. As I say, when you're playing just on, if you've got multiplayer playing, then this is the side of the board that you're going to be working on. So there'll be a point where you'll be searching on the, strictly enough, the next board that I find. You have a navigation board. So this represents kind of the star map, the star chart that you are navigating around. So it gives you a little key at the top here. So it says when you roll this icon or this icon on your resource dice, then this means you can explore. So you would color in a line to explore. And then when you roll this particular icon, it means you can claim. So any line that you've drawn, that go past one of these circles, you can then circle this off to claim this. If it's a dotted line, then you'll claim that particular thing when you so choose to. So if it's victory points, as you see here, then you'll get those at the end of the game, as where if it's a planet, there's another board that you'll get to cross off those planets and utilize that resource, as where if it's a dotted line, you claim that straight away. So wherever else on the other tableaus that you have, you'll then cross that off straight away to claim that particular thing there. So yeah, there's a little asset card, a little card that gives you all the different names of the bits and bobs that you have. I think it's one of the larger ones. Yeah, there we go. So just grab one of those. There we go. So you get an asset reference card. So just throw this under here. There we go. You should hopefully, if I can get that to focus. There we go. So you get the asset reference card, but you don't need to know this stuff. That's the beauty of this game. It really is all about the iconography, but that is as much as you need. So it is really clear, like that is a planet. Yep, it looks like a planet. That is a planet. We can tell that. You get some trade goods that you'll get to collect and then mark off to use. There are voters, so you'll get some other icons that will indicate you can mark these off, and then when you mark these off, you can then allocate them when you are voting to determine positive or negative outcomes. Bit weird on the positive and negative outcomes. I did find sometimes I actually chose the negative outcomes over the positive outcomes because they were more beneficial to me. So yeah, bit of a weird one that I found. You get a whole bunch of other speciality assets that you can gain. You get focus dice, so this is where you can actually unlock the utilization of those color dice. So when you start the game, you're only going to be effectively referencing the black dice. In solo and multiplayer mode, the AI player, if you like, will be using the colored dice. So that's how that works. And then over here, so you have there we go. So you have the council. So this is what then will give you. So you instantly see it's got dotted lines. So you instantly circle that, mark it off, and then that's where you'll get the votes, the ability to vote. You get a faction. So there is included in here 26 different race cards. If I just show you here, you get a whole bunch, not those, there we go. So you get a whole bunch of different races, 26 in total, and each and every one of them, so these are the two that I've already played, so we just again throw those under here. So each and every one of these, there we go, race cards, come on, it's gonna zoom in. What is it doing? Okay, it's not liking it, is it? There you go. There you go. Right. Okay. So the Emirates clan, represented by the lions. I assume that's the same in Twilight Imperium. So you get Masters of Trade. So when you set up, you'll get to claim 2 of these trade icons. You'll mark those off on that particular board, and then the first icon you spend, each round could be spent as 2 of these particular resources instead of just 1. And then when you come across this guild icon, this is a specific ability just for this, and then each of the different guilds have their own specific ability that they get. So it might be, yeah, sort of marking. So as when I played this faction, for example, it'll be marking off representing a ship that I get in the warfare. So the Sadak Nor are presumably kind of warfare based in terms of their race. There is on the back a nice little blurb that tells you about that particular race, what their specialism is. So all this stuff, I would assume, all ties into what you are seeing then in terms of interpreting to their abilities in the gameplay. So that's the faction specific ability that you get. You then have the population, and the population will basically just give you extra victory points at the end of the game. You have relics that you can gather. So when you're out navigating across the planet, what you'll see here is there are a couple of relic locations. When you turn over a relic card, you will get then a particular victory points, and it might give you another little bonus, an ability that you get to unlock as well. So there's not many of those to be gained throughout the game, but they are there up for grabs. There's a couple of icons again on the navigation that basically just mean you've effectively discovered something that gives you a bonus against your opponents, either to the left or to the right when you're in warfare with them. Come on, there we go. And then finally you've got a whole bunch of other commodities, and it's those commodities that you'll be marking off straight away and marking them on the industry board, I believe. Okay, so that's how that works. So here you'll find as you're flying through space, you'll also see a number of these little commodities that you can also glean from here. So then that takes us to here we go, not that one, there we go, this one here, the industry board. So this is the other board that certainly for me I found focusing on this one was very good. I mean, it looks ridiculously busy, but it's actually very simple. So again, you've got a key here that gives you the information that you need in terms of when you roll those particular resources, what does that give you? Now, the interesting thing with this one is what you're actually trying to do in the main part is you're trying to cross out these areas, which means you can then claim the things next to them, but you've got to be really careful you don't box yourself into a corner. So when you circle something and you claim it, it means then you can't then build and continue to expand next to it. So you have to sacrifice resources in order to keep expanding, and in order to gain the more powerful assets or commodities in the main part around here that you're interested in. What all these commodities throughout the whole of the games whole of the boards are used down here. So the commodities are used to provide you the trades. So that gives you then extra assets you can spend, and then as you unlock those, you'll see there's a point where there's a maximum number of trades that you can get, and there'll be a point where you turn over a strategy card and it will say, right, the number of these that you've marked off, circle all of those, and then at any point on your turn on any board you can just start crossing those off to give you an extra resource that you can spend to unlock something else. So that works really, really well. And there is a bit of a kind of chaining thing, but it's not as advanced, I would say, as something like Hadrian's Wall, where I think you do get a lot more chaining in terms of, right, I'll do this and then that launches that, and then I'll get this and then I'll unlock that and then I'll get this. And there is much more chaining in something like Hadrian's Wall. This is a far simpler game, surprisingly, than something like Hadrian's Wall. Even though you've actually got 4 boards compared to just the 2 that you had in Hadrian's Wall, but these are much simpler. So yeah, so that's mainly the way it works. This board works. So then you've got your votes that you record up here. You've got your trades that you can trade for other resources that you're going to unlock, and the resources are what you'd have here to then mark these off. Okay, so that's how that board works. And then each of the boards has a type of technology that you can unlock. Now, what I've been looking at here is the B side of these boards. So we'll just finish off the other boards. So you get an expansion board. So as you're unlocking planets, the idea is then you're going down into these planets, and then you're using the resources to unlock further assets that then maybe unlock different technologies or give you extra abilities, commodities, etc., that you can then again utilize and spend on other boards. So there's a whole bunch of different planets. You get 6 on here, and then you can also spend resources or planets to unlock the extra dice, and that's how for this particular board, although you don't have to spend when you unlock a dice, which is a mistake I made when I played my first game. When you unlock a dice, it doesn't have to be pertaining to this particular board. You can unlock that dice and then you can say, right, I'm going to use it on my industry board, so I'm going to mark it up here to say I've unlocked that dice, and then I'm going to cross it off on here to say I've used that unlocked dice, but I've claimed it on this board rather than this board. So you know, you really do have optimal flexibility when you're claiming those things and how you decide and when you decide to utilize those things. Likewise, these specialisms here, for me, I tend to use the specialisms on the warfare board, which I'll come on to in a moment. And then here's where you've got your population. The population track is just marked up here, and that's just victory points at the end of the game. There is a nice little tab across here you can use as it goes through in the rulebook and to keep a track. So you can then just kind of say, okay, this turn when we've rolled the dice and we've turned over the card, actually we've got 2 of those and 3 of those and 1 of those, and then I can just rub it off and mark it out and go, yeah, okay, I've claimed that, and then you know where you are. So yeah, I did find sometimes it got a little bit confusing, particularly when you've got all the dice unlocked on the board, but in the main part it's very easy to follow. What I tend to do, I'm only playing solo, right, so I'll just move those dice up to say, yep, spent that one, spent that one, spent that one. With the multicolored dice, you do get, as you can see there, oh, let's try not to lose them. Here we go. Right, so as you can see here, there are faces where you do get the multiple symbols, so they can sometimes make it a little bit awkward just to keep track of stuff, but where you've just got the single sides, it's very easy, certainly playing solo. You can go, yep, spent that one now, and then I've spent that one, and now I've spent that one, and they've all gone, right? So very, very easy to keep track of that. The black dice, they're all just single uses, so there's no multiples on the blacks, but you do get them on the different color dice there. So that's how they work. And then finally, last but not least, we have the warfare board. So the warfare, as I mentioned, then you've got a column here which represents the forces that you're building up to attack the player on your left, and a column here to represent the forces that you're playing up to attack the player on the right. You can cross over. There are gaps between each of these sections. So the idea of these sections is, so phase 1, so there'll be a bunch of cards that you pull off to say phase 1, these events will happen, these strategies will happen, and you do have an opportunity to kind of build up your forces during phase 1. But then when you go into phase 2, that's when the warfare becomes available, if you like, sort of unlocks, and you can utilize that. And again, it does represent that nicely on the solo and 2-player board. So what you'll notice here is it's only at phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 do you have the votes and the warfare, and then phase 5 there is potentially another level of warfare. My 2 games I've played so far didn't actually have that coming into play, so yeah, there's an element of luck with that as well, so that's quite nice. Although it can be frustrating if you were banking on getting the extra victory points and then it never happens. So yeah, just be conscious and cautious of that. Particularly if you're spending a lot of resources on here to gain those extra victory points and it doesn't happen. So yeah, just be aware of that. Yeah, so left player, right player, and you can actually span across as well. So something like, as you see here, the war sun, the shape of this that you're going to draw, and you can rotate these any way you like, and rotate and flip, and you can orient it as you like. And as you go up on these areas, when you get to the second level, there are areas that are blocked out, so these are kind of meteorites or whatever. You can't position ships there, but you'll find that you can then cross off sort of extra victory points, extra population, which is victory points on the other board. So you'll get all these different bits and bobs that you can acquire. And then over here, what you would do is you would write down when a war happens to be resolved. You tot up how many of the dots you filled in this half. You fill that in to say this is how many war points I've got, and you compare that to your neighbour's war points, and then you'd either lose a victory point at the end of the game, or you'd gain a commodity or a resource, something you can use somewhere else. So here you'd gain a pink dice that you can then spend on this board or any other board, as I said. So that's, in short, that is how these play. They play really, really well, very well designed. And one of the other nice things, as well as then these 4 boards that you'd lay, what you would do is effectively you would just lay them all out in front of you in such a fashion. There we go. And they don't have to be this way, but I like it this way because it suits my OCD, and you get the nice little coloured sections in the middle there. So there you go. So on my turn, I would say, okay, this turn I'm going to play on this particular board. I'd have turned over a card, I'd have rolled some dice, and I go, okay, these resources here mean I can claim things, so I can circle those off to say that I've claimed those. These resources here mean I can explore, so then I would draw extra lines in, and then this resource means I can explore as well. I should draw another line, and this resource means I can claim. So any of those new lines that I've just drawn, if I've unlocked any of the circles, I can just circle that to claim that as well. So that's how that works Very, very simple, really easy to follow. And then, like I say, you kind of got that a bit of just a very small amount of chaining between these to say, right, I'm going to go here so I can unlock the planets, and then those planets I can use over here in the expansion board to represent the planets that I'm going on. And then when I've unlocked these assets here, I'm going to be filling in things on the industry track down here, and I'm also going to be acquiring potentially these specialist resources I can use over here to maybe unlock ships, unlock skills, to give me extra points and things like that. So that works brilliantly. So as I say, you've got these 26 races. They've all got their own abilities, their own specific nuances and initial setup bonus that you get, as well as a particular faction power that is unique to each of them. There is the full story and fluff on all of them as well. And then in addition to that, whether you're playing solo or multiplayer, you also then, as we said, have a whole bunch of relic cards. So there's a good number there. So chances are you're not going to see them all, you know, in a single game. Probably 2 or 3 games, you're probably not even going to see them all, right? So there's a good number here, and there's various things. So More of Worlds, which is the one that I got the other day. So play immediately, cross out 1 unclaimed asset on each planet. So over here on the planet's expansion board, on expansion to unlock any 2 technologies. Yeah. So, and then you can choose, like I say, each board has its technologies. You can unlock any 2 technologies. So that was the relic that I picked up. In addition to that, then you have these particular objectives. So as well as then racing, certainly in solo mode, well, multiplayer and solo mode, to get to the Mecatol Rex, which is over here. So you see it's quite a way from here, but you can unlock this technology, which means you can use wormholes, and that means you can actually come up here and jump from this wormhole down to this wormhole, and then you're just 2 further away, and then you claim that. The first one there gets extra points, so it's 7 points for the first one, 4, and then 2 points, and you get some extra votes as well. And similarly, when you're playing multiplayer as well, you do get the extra points. So yeah, so there's extra bonuses there for those. And then in addition to that, then you have these. So these are an objective for each of the boards that you have. So the industry board will have 3 different objectives that you might be playing for in any particular game. Similarly for warfare, for expansion, and for navigation. So they each have a bunch of different objectives that will vary from game to game, and obviously those different combinations will mix up what it is you might want to be going for. And some of these are, I mean, if I flip these over this way, you see some of these, you know, 7 points, 9 points, you know, so you've got quite a high value on some of these, 5 points, 7 points, 9 points. So yeah, there's a good level of variation there. And then, as I mentioned, you'll have in phase 2, 3 and 4, you will have these voting phases where you'll be casting a vote as to what do you want something good or bad to happen. What they say when you're playing solo is one such has an icon on the card and the other doesn't, so then you have to play one of each. So just pop it over here, in fact, and you can have a read. There we go. So we've got the so if you select for yes to the vote, and it says the player who casts the most past votes chooses a commodity type. Each player claims 1 trading space for each of those claimed commodities of that type in their industrial grid. Yeah, so obviously when you're playing solo, you can really optimize that because it's only you that's going to benefit from that. And then likewise the opposite here, so the negative, if you fail, the player who casts the most failed votes chooses a number from 1 to 3. Each player crosses out that number of claimed unspent industry. So you get to cross it out, you've lost it, you don't get the chance to use that industry. So the way it works then for the solo play board is on turns 2, 3 and 4, as you roll the dice, you're only going to be counting, as I mentioned, the coloured dice. So you would mark, so if that was my roll, you would go in here and you'd mark off, so 1 here, so they've got now 1 extra vote when that when that strategy comes up. You'd mark off 1 here, so they're now 1 step further to claiming that particular objective, and then you'd mark 1 off on here, so they're 1 step further to claim that objective. They do also have the race to Mecatol Prime as well, so you know that is an element where you are going to be competing effectively against this it's albeit minimalist, but this AI that you are competing against. So that will drive certainly some of the decisions that you're making as you play through this game, and you're banking on actually what is my warfare power, actually how many pinks pink resources as the baddie got, as the AI got, that they're going to be throwing at me. Am I going to win? And am I really bothered about losing a victory point versus whatever this resource is? So do I really want to plan it in that specialist item? Do I really want to unlock a red dice? Do I want to generate whatever my particular faction power is? So all these different things are at play, but every time you choose, when you start up your turn, you choose which board am I going to focus on, knowing what's already come to pass, what's going to be coming, and taking a gamble really on what is going to come next. So the way those cards works is you have a whole bunch of cards here, and there's a particular stacking order to these when you shuffle them up, and they're not just completely randomly shuffled. You do have the level 1 stuff first. You get 3 rounds of activity, if you like, ahead of them playing against the AI. So you do have a sort of a blue and then a black and then a blue in terms of how you stack them. You'll see the blue ones will give you your main strategy cards, and they are labelled as such. So these give you the resources that you can spend on whichever chosen board you want ahead of rolling a dice. And it spells out exactly what you do here. So you choose an active sheet and then spend this card's resources. Whoever is the current speaker, so that will rotate if you're playing a multiplayer game. Obviously, if you're playing solo, that is just you. And then you will roll the dice and then spend the dice resources. Okay, and then there's a black one, which in this case is also strategy, and then another blue one which is also strategy. So, and you'll see the different resources that you get to spend on these cards. And then when you get into level 2, that's where things will change up. So again, you'll get a strategy with the power, but then you'll also get redefined trade routes. So claim 1 trade. So this is where you'll circle that trade for everyone that you've marked off down here. So yeah, as I was mentioning, this is the industry board, so you'll be marking these commodities off, and as you mark off those commodities, you'd get these trade markers, and then when that card is drawn, you would then say, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 trade markers, so I'm going to circle and claim 3 of those, and then at some point I can cash those in to claim resources that I'm spending on one of the boards or this board as I please. Again, then blacks is back to a straight strategy, and then blue is something else, so convene a council. So that's where again you would then count up how many ticks that you've got. So again, the commodities, sorry, not the commodities, in fact there's a speaker icon that you would claim, and you would mark these off for each one of those speaker icons instantly. As soon as you've claimed it, you mark that off, and that determines how many votes you get when this card is drawn. So you claim all of those off, and then you draw those voting agenda cards, and you determine, okay, do I want to go positive, do I want to go negative? And as I say, yeah, a bit weird, I thought, and I know Tom Vassell made a comment that not particularly as impactful as they are with Twilight Imperium, so you do need to bear that in mind. And then we've got Toward Home, so it's another straight strategy card, gives you the resources, and then stage 2 at the end. But obviously that could be random how it comes up. In this case, it's at the end, the border conflict. So you advance the deployment line. So that's where we'd get our warfare card. We draw a line here, and then we're going to tot up what's happened on the line below that point. So resolve war against each neighbour using the sections immediately below the deployment line. So you move that deployment line forward, and then you're going to count up how many battle points you've got, compare those to your neighbours, and determine did you win, claim that resource or that asset, and if you lost, you lose a victory point at the end of the game. And it goes on like that throughout season 3, season 4 and season 5. There is a card in Season 5, which I've actually drawn a couple of times now, which is the Empire Ascendant. So this round ends immediately. The game will have one more strategy event. So the next strategy event, and then you don't actually have that war at the end. So I've had that a couple of times now. So again, there's a level of variation that is applicable even in those pulling of those cards. But there's a level of predictability. You know a vote's going to happen. You know warfare is going to happen. You know you're going to get those trading bonuses. It's up to you to then determine, without knowing exactly when they're going to happen, how do I want to plan on the basis I know at some point they're coming. Is the next card a draw? First time into the new round, is that going to be warfare? Do I need to build up my forces? Can I afford to let that go while I focus on something else and then come back because I'm going to unlock maybe an extra warship technology that I won't have available otherwise? So yeah, there's some of those nuances. Now, there is an additional piece of variation about this that I really like. As I mentioned, all these boards that I've shown you are the B side. On the A side, for asynchronicity, is totally unique star systems that you're going to play. So there are 8 boards in here in total, and that means there are 8, and you can see you're starting now down in this little corner over here. This still includes the gravity drive, integrated economy, to explore small, so the technologies are the same. But the whole of the map layout is very different. So in fact, here you've got to get right to the other side of the galaxy in order to unlock Mecatol Rex. So that's a significant difference. Although you do have wormholes, you know, that you can utilize. So still 2 away there, and I presume that's the same distance from the wormholes as well. So yeah, and you've got 2 of those relic spots you can unlock. So generally what you're saying is the contents on here in terms of the commodities, the resources, the planets, the relics, everything else, the wormholes, they're all exactly the same, but they're laid out differently, so they do give you that bit of variation as you're playing through. So you will have 8 different of these. So if I pull all of the navigation boards, so this is the B side, so you'll see you've got 8 of those that are all exactly the same. So there is a way you can start out, introduce it to your friends, you all play exactly the same, and then when you flip it over to the A side, there is slight variation and difference in terms of how this works. So this one, you're still starting to sit in the center, but it is slightly different layout on some of these bits that you are seeing. So yeah, we have got variation here in terms of how you'll be experiencing and therefore playing and navigating around the navigation boards. Yeah, so you have got a level of variation that comes straight out of the box to give you that slightly different experience as well as you play through. And again, that applies to all of them. So when you go on to warfare, what you'll find then is on the, so again, there's the B side, so they're all the same on the B side. But when you flip it over to the A side, that's when you'll find then you have so transit diodes. Yeah, so again, the technologies are still the same, but there is variation on, I'm trying to see where the variation is. So yeah, so the variation, it looks like, is no, so the winnings, the winning, so the things that you can win from battle to battle change. The layout here changes as well, but the main ships that you're going to be building and the shapes, these do remain the same. So it's just the grid that you're completing, and the resources, rewards that you're going to get for completing those will change. So a green die, a red die versus a blue die and a red die down there instead. The faction quality right at level 1. So yeah, just difference on where these particular blockers are going to be and the resources that you're able to gain from those. Let's have a look at the others. So again, this is So this is the B side. Sorry, so this is where they're all exactly the same. So you're playing that super friendly game. You're all just getting started to know, and then this is so you get quite a bit of variation here. And again, if you remember, this is what I'm saying. You're needing to kind of cross things out, which means you can build next to it, or you circle to claim a resource, which means you can no longer build. You're building effectively a wall that prevents you progressing. So yeah, it really is quite a variation here. In terms of how this works, these are exactly the same. I'm imagining in the main, those resource, those charts are exactly the same. So it is this area here where you're marking off these commodities in order to unlock or block other commodities. You can see there's quite a bit of variation. Again, I would assume in the main, the numbers are exactly the same. It's just the layout and therefore the order in which you choose to go after particular things will be different. So there you go. There's an idea of the variation that you get with those. And then last but not least, we have the expansions. This is where you're marking off those planets. Again, this is the B side. So you get 6 fairly evenly sized planets. And the idea is you get these smaller planets that are then easier because they require less resources to then gain the assets versus the slightly bigger planets where you have to take up more resources to gain a particular asset. But when you flip over to the variation side, you find actually you've got, I mean, that's a significantly larger planet there, but you can see, yeah, so much different in terms of the size and the scale. In fact, that one's only got 5 planets, as has that one. They all only got 5. Maybe they have. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They all got 5? No, they got... So the original had 6 planets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then a space docks track here. So you can see these ones actually only got 5 planets. And the space dock's quite a different layout. Still need the same amount of resources, what have you, to claim those, but that gives you the unlocking of the dice, either on this board or a different board. But yes, you've got 2 big planets, 3 smaller planets, and then a slightly different resource there as well. So you can see there's quite a bit of variation in those, but again, still the same, technologies, skills, victory points across the top, etc. So everything else works the same for you. And then you're back to 6 different planets, but this is side A, so this is the alternative asymmetric side. So yeah, so you do get quite a bit of variation and therefore replayability from a solo play. For me, my intent is I'll play through each of the 26 factions. I'll probably start to mix it up now with the A side, start playing through those different variations. And again, as you can see, you start mixing and matching those different boards. You can have some boards on A, some boards on B, as well as then obviously the different objectives, the different relics, different power faction abilities, different order in which those strategy cards come up. You can see it does give you at least that little bit of variation as you're playing through and having to try and work out and think, okay, do I want to do this now? Do I want to do that now? How do I want to focus? The way it works from a scoring perspective then is obviously you're racing against the AI to get those victory points, but in addition, ultimately it is a kind of beat your own score, so it does give you at the back of the main rulebook then a bit of a kind of tally, if you like, to say solo 2-player ranking. So if you get up to 40 points on easy mode, so it goes 40, 60 and 80 on easy mode, so anything below 40 is you've lost effectively. For medium mode then you need to get 60 points, and anything beneath that you've lost. And then in hard mode there's variation. You've got to get 80, 100 or 120 points. So far I've played on easy twice, and I scored just shy of 100 points on easy. Now the point ranking is 40, 60 or 80, so I've actually got the maximum points I could possibly get on easy mode, so I became a galactic power. So next I'll be going into the medium mode. So again, there are some variation in here that goes through. This is how you can then change up that that setup to make it that bit more difficult And I'm just trying to remember. I did see it. I do remember seeing it. Set up resource. You'd have thought it would have been in the solo mode. Choosing difficulty, here we go. So easy difficulty is no changes at all. For medium difficulty, you cross out the leftmost icon of each goal track. Cross out the leftmost unmarked icon and the stage 2 and 3 sections. And then in hard, effectively, you're going to start having already lost some of your assets, your resources, etc. So it does make it a little bit harder to kind of get that engine going, if you like. So yeah, so my next game I'll be starting on medium, and I'll do a couple on that. And then, yeah, see where we go from there. So, yeah, really enjoyed my experience so far. Played a couple of games now, as I say. Not particularly arduous and daunting. It looks really busy when you first lay it out on the table. But as I say, actually, it's not. It's very simple. The iconography is actually incredibly simple. They do give you plenty of asset cards. So, you know, you give one of those to each player. Say, okay, this is all you need to know is on here. And yeah, that's it, you're good to go. Really like the content. Only negative is the cheeses in cleaning them up. You do need to get some wet wipes for wiping the boards down. You know, don't bother try and use the back of the pen. That's fine for like, oh, actually I've changed my mind, not going to do that. I'm going to spend that resource or asset over here instead. That's fine for that stuff. Otherwise, great game. Really enjoyed my experience in it. Like I say, I'll certainly be playing it for a number more times to go. I think, yeah, about an hour and a half, 2 hours a game. It's a little bit of AP, but not a tremendous amount. All in all, I think for me, I think this is a firm 8. You know, 8 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed it. And do you know what? For £13, which is what I've currently what I managed to get it for and what it's currently on offer for. I think the original retail price of this was about £64. £13, it's a steal. You know, I could highly recommend, for the sake of 13 quid, pick this up, give it a go, see what you think. It works multiplayer as well as solo, and it works actually quite well solo. I'm enjoying it. So that's my thoughts anyway. So yeah, let me know your thoughts if you've played this or if you've seen it around and you were interested. Let me know what your comments were. If there's anything you wanted to see that I didn't go into as much detail on, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, as always, thanks for watching. If you have liked this, please do hit that like button. If you want to encourage me to continue to make content, please do hit that subscribe. It really does encourage me. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Ta-ta for now.